Hey, love. Welcome to Christianish. This is the podcast for women who have Bibles but don't necessarily have boundaries. My name is Keshia Rice. I am a dating coach and hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to heal from their unhealthy relationship patterns and to create happy, loving, cherished relationships. And I am currently in the midst of a very bad storm. So I hope you can't hear the thunder and lightning outside right now. I've tried to shield the mic from that, but I procrastinated on recording this episode, not gonna lie, and now there's a very bad storm, so this is going to be short because I probably should not even be on my phone right now. But that being said, we do have an important topic to talk about today. And thank goodness it's not going to take me very long to get this message across because it's very simple. I need you to stop building relationships that have a foundation of struggle. You know, I recently had an interesting conversation, we'll say that, with a woman that I had met at a networking thing. And you know how those things go. So she and I met. We found we had a couple of things in common. I've had a couple of conversations with her since this event, because this event was weeks ago. And I was asking her about going to another event that I was interested in, whether or not she wanted to come with me, right? And she made, these weren't her exact words, but basically she said something along the lines of she didn't really see us being good friends because I was too happy and optimistic, basically. That she didn't think that I was all that relatable. And that she didn't think we just vibed like that. Which, it's cool. It happens. Everybody ain't for everybody, right? But that experience made me think about something that I see so often with my clients, right? And the reason why women in general have a hard time with developing healthy relationships. Not just romantic relationships, but friendships as well. And that is building these relationships off the basis of struggle. On social media, you will hear a lot of people talk about trauma bonding. And I am going to try to avoid using that term. The reason being is that there's actually psychology behind trauma bonding, right? And there's a whole thing on social media of people taking psychological phrases and using them to diagnose themselves, diagnose other people without having seen a therapist, without having a psychology degree, and without the person that they're accusing of being certain things or diagnosing them with being certain things, without that person having sought any help, right? And then there people also weaponize psychology. Like, I have done, at this point, multiple episodes about boundaries and what they really are. And I'm not the only person, right? There's so many coaches, there are so many therapists, counselors, social workers, you name it, that talk about boundaries. And yet, I see over and over again people using the word boundaries to just talk about, I'm going to be an a-hole to other people because they do things that I don't like, which is not at all what boundaries are, right? So again, I'm going to try to avoid psychological terms and just come to you plainly with this. So often we have at least some area in our life where we grew up with struggle, right? Sometimes that was financial. You know, you grew up in a home that was lower income, and, you know, your parents were paycheck to paycheck. You watched them struggle to make ends meet. And because of that, you know, you have all of these ideas about scarcity and thinking that, you know, money doesn't grow on trees, just all these things that end up affecting you in the way that you manage money as an adult as well, right? Or maybe it's not money. Maybe the struggle that you grew up seeing around you from your parents or whoever your caregiver was, maybe it was just a lack of foundation, a lack of grounding, just always feeling like everything was chaotic. You know, and I don't say this to denigrate religion because I am Christian myself, right? But, you know, I think this is why a lot of people end up finding, quote unquote, finding religion, but not really experiencing the full beauty of it. Like to use Christianity as an example, there are so many people who go to church every Sunday because they have found some comfort in it, but they come to church, they come to God from a place of feeling worthless and not being able to be confident in who they are. So they come to God, they come to, you know, the throne from a place of constantly crying and begging, right? And not from ever feeling empowered. You know, I used to love hearing preachers talk about the scriptures, about coming to God boldly and asking for whatever you want and believing it. Not from a place of being greedy or spoiled or from being a brat, but just from this idea that I'm not some lowly person who needs to beg, right? That for me, relationship with God is being able to know that I'm loved, that I'm cherished, and I'm not bothering or annoying God, right? I'm asking for things to live a better life so that I can better fulfill my purpose. Yeah, so that's a tangent, but to the point, like some people come from a background of not having spiritual grounding. So that was their struggle in early life. Some people come from a struggle that is emotional, right? They grew up in a family where maybe they had faith, maybe they had religion, maybe they had money. You know, no one ever struggled. There was always roof over their head, clothes on their back, warm clothes, good food on the table, all of that. But no one in the family was really good at showing their emotions or being vulnerable. Whatever the struggle is, you now find yourself as an adult constantly building relationships based off that. And you see this all the time on social media. You see, especially in the dating and relationship space, you see women create these videos talking about the ain't-ish man and how he did her wrong. And then the comment section is flooded with, yeah, you know, I had a terrible relationship too. Yeah, man treated me badly too. And sometimes I'm just looking at these comments, and first of all, girls, stand up. Like, why are you allowing someone to treat you so badly? And not just once, because it can happen to anybody once, but when it's over and over again, different story. But also, why would you re-traumatize yourself by constantly telling these stories over and over again? This is not a bonding moment. You are re-triggering yourself. And then you form friendships with women where the two of you get together and the two of you are constantly talking about the ain't-ish men who did you wrong, and you're re-triggering yourself in a group setting together, right? And you're doing this instead of growing out of that trauma, instead of looking at these situations and being like, okay, this situation didn't work out. And yes, I didn't make the smartest decisions in this relationship, but how can I move past this? What are the lessons that I can learn? What are the ways in which I can prevent this from happening again? And encouraging your friends to also do that. Encouraging your friends to that point when complaining about a relationship happens. Like, yeah, it's one thing when the relationship is fresh, right? When the breakup is fresh. I encourage you right after a relationship ends to mourn that relationship, to cry, to complain, to vent, to do all of that. But this should not still be the case if you broke up with, I was going to say words I can't say. If you broke up with that man, if you broke up with him like a year ago, or sometimes, these women are still crying about men they broke up with 5-10 years ago, right? So yeah, there is a time to mourn. Like, Ecclesiastes talks about that, right? There's a time and place for everything. There's a time to mourn, but it shouldn't be that long, all right? You should have a couple of days, right? But instead, again, you're forming these relationships over common struggle. This is why for a lot of people, the closest relationships they have, the closest friendships they have are people that they currently work with, or they used to work with this person at a terrible job. Because that's what the two of you bonded over. You bonded over the fact that you both hate your boss. And again, there's nothing wrong with bonding over a commonality. The problem is when struggle is the only thing that your relationship is about. The only thing in your relationship is complaining about how terrible this job is. And then the two of you, maybe one of you leaves that job and goes some other place. But whenever you get together, you're still bonding over how terrible the job was when you were there. Or you're bonding over how terrible the new job is. Or you're bonding over how terrible the economy is and how you never have money and you're always broke. At some point, if you want to elevate in life, so if you want better relationships, if you want more money, if you want to be healthier, more fit, if you want to elevate yourself, you have to elevate your conversations. That is where it starts. Out of the mouth does your heart speak, right? So if you are constantly speaking low vibrational, I was trying to avoid saying low vibrational, but if you're constantly speaking low vibrational things, then why are you surprised that you're constantly surrounded by a low vibrational environment? You're speaking it into existence. So now you are forming friendships that are based on struggle. And then some of you take this into your romantic relationships too. Either A, you are bonding with men who are reflective of who you used to be and not the woman that you're trying to become. They're reflective of your past struggles and they will drag you straight back down into your past struggles. Or you start to elevate a little bit, but because you don't want to completely let go of that identity, you find someone who's still there and you think that you can fix them and bring them up. Again, what is more likely to happen is that they will bring you back down. The only way for you to have higher level relationships is for you to end the cycle of forming relationships in struggle. Because if that is the foundation of the relationship, then of course the rest of the house is going to be a struggle house as well. You have to have a healthy foundation to have a healthy house, to have a healthy relationship. So I just want you to take some time today to really think about the past few conversations that you've had. This is not a time to even pick on particular relationships, whether they're romantic or with family or friends or whatever. I just want you to think about, in general, the conversations. What was the overall tone? Was it positive? Was it negative? If negative things came up in the relationship or in the conversation, were there any solutions brought up on how to fix this? Or was it just ranting? Was it just bonding over struggle, right? And what percentage of your conversations would you say are spent deep down in the pit of struggle, as opposed to conversations that elevate you and the other person? And if you're finding that a large percentage of your relationships, a large percent of your conversations are built in the struggle, then you'll start to realize that a large percent of your conversations are too. And if that is the case, I would encourage you to be the change that you want to see. So that means stop talking to men who are neggers, who are negative, and who never have anything of elevation to talk about. It means that if you are forming new friendships, form them on a foundation of positive, uplifting conversation. And with your old friends, it means that you need to start changing the tone of what you talk about. And if they don't want to follow you, then maybe that's a sign that it's time for you to move past the relationship. So I can't believe that I actually went almost 20 minutes because the storm is not dying down. But I really want you to think about, what is it that you can do today to create a foundation of healthy relationships with yourself. So that means stop talking negatively about yourself too. Stop talking about you don't like how you look or you don't like your body or any of that crap. And with the other people in your life. Because I promise you, your romantic relationships are going to be no different. If you can't create healthy talk, elevated talk in your other relationships, your romantic relationships are going to be born out of struggle as well. So think about that. Let's start working on how we can create a better future for ourselves tomorrow with better conversations today. And I will talk to you soon. Love you so much. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.